Attention. We now have control of your streaming device.
What is going on, everybody out there in podcast land?
Yo, yo, yo.
Happy
Hello, my darlings.
Tuesday. What up, guys? How are you?
Pretty good. Had a rough day.
Yeah?
Yeah, just fucking nothing seemed to go my way today, man. And then including right before the show, I had to kick down my office door because I was locked out of it. And it's one of those like old school like locks you see on bathrooms where like you push the button and you lock it from the inside, but you can always pop it open from the outside by like sticking a coat hanger or something in it.
Yeah.
Well, you would think that that's what this doorknob is, except the lock is a twist lock. Like it twists from the inside to lock, and no matter what you push through that hole on the other side, it didn't open the fucking door. I locked it on purpose, thinking that like, oh yeah, when I come back, I'll just be able to fucking pop it open with a thin rod or something. Like it didn't work.
Yeah, I bet you got a thin rod just
hanging
around waiting.
And you know it. I knew that was coming. But
Just
yeah,
sticking it in doorknobs.
I had to kick in my fucking door and then listen to my wife bitch for like 15 minutes. How I'm fucking, we're ruining the house. We haven't even been here 6 months. Yeah.
Just put a sturdier replacement up and
a real lock, like something with a key. So yeah.
Well, that sucks. We're here now. We can forget about kicking doors down and any other drama of the day. Yeah, how about you, G3? Hanging in there?
Yep, so far so good.
All right, cool. And everyone else out there in the chat, welcome back.
What about you, Cap?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. I had a good day, nice weather. I'm enjoying a little like spring preview.
This has been
shaking off that season.
I know we still have like one more punch in the face from winter coming before it's over.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure we do.
This is nice. This is really nice.
I'm sure we do. But it did get surprisingly hot up in the grow room today. I went up and it's spec'd out for winter time. We had like a near 70-degree day today. And tent temperatures were like 87, 88.
So warm.
Oh God. Yeah. But fortunately, I can just open a window and let some fresh air in. Easy. But yeah, what are you guys smoking tonight?
I got some anaphylaxis. Rolled a big old J. About halfway through the king size.
All right. Hit that mute button when you start coughing your
goodness.
brains out.
Here it comes.
Please.
Brace
if
yourself.
you can. But yeah, that's... Dude, you always make it sound so good.
It is good. That's why I like it.
Just, for anyone who might not know, that is a mass medical strains.
Yeah, it is.
Variety.
Jesus Christ, no. My mind has slipped on what the cross is. I know there's some peanut butter breath in there, and I think it's deadly sativa. Yeah, peanut butter breath crossed with deadly sativa. I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me.
Yeah, it has to. So, like, I was thinking, all right, so I got my things crossed up in my head. Like, anaphylaxis is when you get like a an allergic reaction to like a bee sting, or in this case, like peanut butter, right? Like, be like if you bring like some peanut butter candy into a kindergarten, some kid's just gonna like blow up.
That's bullshit, by the
Basically.
way.
Keep peanut butter away from kids. Preschools, yeah, don't
I'm not
do
saying
it.
peanut allergies are bullshit, but nobody can have an allergic reaction from somebody eating a fucking peanut butter sandwich from across the room. I'm
Dude,
sorry.
apparently they can
There
these
are.
days. I don't
I
know.
call bullshit.
There
But
are.
so I was getting it confused with autoerotic asphyxiation, apparently, like,
What the fuck?
which is, yeah, like that's
Okay,
when you
so
like
a
choke yourself
symptom of
out when you're
anaphylaxis is that your throat closes up.
so
You
I
can't
guess
breathe.
it's similar, right?
But it doesn't have a sexual component to it, Captain.
That would be a weird
It has a
fetish.
fighting
like,
for your life.
like, yeah, let me
element
die
to
from bee stings while you get me off.
I mean, I don't know if the coughing
That's hot,
part
yeah.
is like part of the like that's why it's named anaphylaxis. Like I don't know. I'd have to talk to Mass about it.
No, it
Actually,
has to be because it has a peanut butter lineage, man. It only
Yeah.
makes sense.
but the shit does make you choke and it fucks you up.
Right on. Those meat terps. What about you, G3?
So, this is the first of the Not Boy Mango Smiles. So these were the ones that I wanted to reverse and collect pollen from, but I just like life got too crazy. It didn't happen and I ran out of time. So I just let them flower and they were super stunted. They were in and out of crazy temperatures. The poor things didn't even have names. It was borderline cruel. So this is her now. We'll see.
A little bit of plant torture going on in G3's garden.
Bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
It was more like neglect, really, than torture.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's like
It was neglect.
neglect is just ignorant torture.
Yeah. Okay, it was torture.
Maybe like a non-malicious form of torture, just born from ignorance. I don't know. But
Yeah, it was
still.
the something's gotta give,
Do
They're
you
the
think there was
something.
something subconscious about you that you just started to hate them more and more, and
Maybe.
then since spiraled?
Maybe something subconscious deep
Yeah.
within my psyche.
Mm.
Yep.
Well, we're learning more about you as the shows go on.
Yep. So these girls were stunted, but she smelled just like Mango Smile.
enough,
She looked
Simone.
just like Mango Smile at the end. She had those beautiful
Just
colors.
ask.
So
Good, and you got mango terps. That's really all that matters.
yeah, I'm a happy girl.
Ultimately.
If Mango Smile's involved, then I'm pretty okay with it. I mean, I meant to go back. I could have sworn I had like a couplet in my head that I wanted to like associate with the Captain Bong Rip for every show. I need to go back and research that. I've said that
Just
to
gotta
like three people
get
too.
it on your phone, cue it up. But so I'm glad you asked what I'm smoking on.
Yes.
I was getting there.
I assumed the question was coming.
That was what was coming after that.
Of course, I took the preemptive bomb hit.
You just took it right from me.
I couldn't wait. So I'm enjoying the Diesel Frost tonight, the Slurricane number 7 crossed with Sour Diesel. That's Femme Photo Period from Exclusive Genetics. Really funky and fruity. This one does tend to make me cough a lot too, so I apologize in advance. I'll hit the mute button if that happens. But yeah, there's just certain, I don't know what it is, where certain strains will make me cough my dick off, and others I can just take a smooth hit and not be affected by it. You think it's something in the resin, some mixture of cannabinoids?
There's got to be something in the
I don't know.
trichomes. It's my thought.
It has to, or is it in the way you grow it or dry it or something I do as a grower?
I'm sure there's probably all
causes
of
this.
those things to it. I know there are certain terpenes that certainly can add to coughing. If you have super high levels of pinene, that can certainly tickle your throat. So,
I imagine if you fuck up drying, you can make any strain would make you cough. But I think that you would have some other cues before, like, meaning like you'd have some other, like the weed wouldn't smell right. You might get a hint of mold or something like that before you just started. Like, you wouldn't just randomly cough. I don't think, without noticing that there'd be something wrong with your herb.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just a question. I'm trying to figure it out, but I tend to think it's just strains, genetics.
Yeah, something.
But yeah, just to answer questions coming from the chat that I see, like, yeah, guys, we see you. What's up, everyone? We can read your messages.
Yep.
From time to time, we do answer questions if it's like a really good one. We'll throw it up on the screen and do a little question answer feature. But we always start the show with like a "What are you smoking on?" segment. I'm trying to just keep it casual, try to ease into the conversation. So,
but yeah, I knew tonight, the main guy that was asking there. He says he's new here, so
all right.
Well, welcome aboard.
Yeah, well, welcome, friend. Welcome. Glad to have you on the ship. So I wanted to do a little like kind of sidetrack topic just before we get into the growing tonight. Like, I wanted to talk work-related drug tests. Is that still a thing for anyone out there? Like,
I'm sure that it's become less and less.
Yeah.
I know that, like, for instance, like CDL drivers, and shit like that. Like, I'll never forget it. I felt so bad for this guy. I was in Boston, like, my kid was like 2 or 3. We were driving, and I clipped his bumper just enough to like pull it out a little bit. You know, like how they have those overhanging like steel bumpers that, like, anyway, I clipped his bumper taking the turn, and he was bullshit. He's like, "Fuck! Now I gotta take a drug test." And I'm like, "Oh man, like, it wasn't your fault." He's like, "It doesn't fucking matter. Any accident, you gotta take a drug test." I'm like, "Oh
yeah, man, dude, CDL drivers in particular, like the Department of Transportation, like, they still basically don't see any medicinal benefit to cannabis at all. It's still like, zero tolerance. You are not allowed to smoke. And it just sucks, man. It really sucks, especially because we all know, like, I mean, the problem with the cannabis is that it stays in your system as long as it does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they can test for it so easily. Whereas like other substances, man, like, I could get shit-faced on alcohol the night before and it's out of my system and, still be like good to go for most jobs. You know what I mean?
Actually, alcohol stays in your system 72 hours, I believe.
Okay.
I could be wrong about
Fair
that.
enough.
Nobody gives a shit about alcohol, though.
No.
Kind of
unless you're actively driving a vehicle.
Yep, this is true.
It is a lot like, yeah, I mean, there's a very zero tolerance for like, having a beer for the road kind of thing, like a lat beer while you're on the highway.
Right. Yeah. Something the night before.
But yeah, like, you're allowed
a road
to
soda.
Indulge in alcohol. Like,
no.
and let's not even mention the pharmaceuticals, like the mind-bending prescription medications that are prescribed to half the populace. They're driving around looped out of their fucking minds all day on Xanax, Adderall. Yeah, like, dude, I mean, it's like, like painkillers, and that they're still testing the way they are for cannabis is kind of ridiculous.
It is. It is.
I think a lot of them don't use cannabis-based... Okay, let me preface this by saying in medical and recreational states, I think a lot of them that do drug tests don't include cannabis on the screen anymore.
A lot of them don't. It's becoming less and less. I mean, like, even back in like 2000, when I went to machining school, it was funded by the government, right? So I didn't have to pay for the schooling, and they drug tested us. Obviously, I smoked dope. They didn't look for cannabis because it's pretty wide known that like 99.9% of fucking every machinist smokes dope. So like, they didn't bother with cannabis. And I think that is becoming more prevalent. I mean, The NBA stopped testing for it because it was like, why? Like they all do it. It's kind of stupid. Even the
I think the
NFL.
NFL stopped.
Well, they test for it, but they don't penalize you anymore for cannabis. Yeah.
Now, if I'm thinking correctly, I think I just read an article recently that like the military is going to ease up on their policy regarding cannabis too, just because like it's just becoming more prevalent, like more people are just having a little bit of usage in their past. I mean, yeah, you can't just like disqualify this huge segment of the population from like jobs or military positions anymore. I don't know. I feel like we're getting there, but we're not quite.
Yeah.
It does suck, man. Like, so the reason I was thinking about it is because.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, like, how did this come about?
Well, I have a friend who's like, don't want to mention who he is or what he does, but like, point is, he was given 1 day notice at his work. Like, giving you a drug test tomorrow, which is actually, I don't know if that's standard policy, but like, I mean, thank God for that, right? Because like he was given 1 day. What can you do in that 1 day?
Right.
Let's say you got 1 day and your piss is hot. It's hotter than hot, right? Like you're smoking all day, every day. Like you're going to test off the charts. They're going to look 3 times at your levels and be like, how the fuck is he still functioning? And then they're going to fire you anyway. So what do you do?
Well, back in the day, the last time I had to take a drug test was to get into a union machine shop. And I just used my wife's. Luckily, she doesn't smoke or do any drugs. And I hear people all the time like, oh, aren't you worried they're going to like, what if your wife's pregnant? Like they don't pregnancy test. That's like the dumbest shit ever.
Well, bingo.
Yeah.
So easiest solution, right? If your piss is hot, like we got here, I want to give him a shout out. Nicholas Hagee says, my piss is hotter than the surface of the sun.
You just, the biggest thing with that is you got to keep it warm. So I just take one of those piss vials and tape it to my leg. And it's
you're spot on here, man. You're spot on, right? So this is a tried and true method, guys. Like I've done this myself a number of times. Okay, let's say you're given 1 day, you got to get clean piss from somewhere. Let's say in Monst's case, it's his wife. Like that's fortunate, right? In my past, in cases in my past, I mean it wasn't. My wife smokes more than I do. So I swear to you, and this sounds really weird. We're going to get a really bizarre compilation of what I'm about to say.
Oh, God.
I'm scared.
In my last drug test, I gave them my wife's friend's infant daughter's piss. Like her daughter was less than a year old. Like, don't ask me how okay, maybe not quite that young. I want to say potty training age. So like, that's the way, how she got her to do it. So just to give you guys a little
what? Did her friend smoke as well?
Yes, that was, exactly. Yeah. God, so like, I don't have a single friend who's got clean pee. Like that's my point, right? So like, it's not like, no, I had to have this baby's urine for.
No. I don't know. They do call it fetish pee, right?
What, the fake stuff you can order with like the Whizzinator, and that, like the big fake dick you gotta.
Fake dick. I didn't know they came with fake dick.
They do. They come with a fake dick. I just thought they
came in like weird, like packaged vials.
In like, there's basically 2 types of drug tests, right? Like one where like you're put in a room by yourself and they're like, here, fill up the jar, come out, give it to me, right? And it better be like they just check the temperature of the jar.
Is there a drug test that actually has somebody in the room with you? I thought that was like law enforcement level.
Basically, yeah. It's for like probation.
For jobs?
It's for like no. We're talking they do it for the military. They do it for probation. They do it for you know,
like parole,
yeah,
whatever.
parole, probation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like there are situations where like you have a person literally looking at you to make sure like there's an appendage and there's liquid coming out of it.
Not generally for a job, though.
Not for a job.
Not that
It
I
depends
know of.
on the job. I don't know.
God,
I don't know.
if it's for a job, maybe you don't want that job.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, and there are some cases, G3, really, and that's why these things exist, right? The Wizinator and for weird fetishes. We don't fetish shame here, kink shame.
I don't know, Jeffy, did you wrestle for Penn State?
There you go. Maybe for like scholarship athletes.
I don't know if anybody gets that joke.
Oh, I just got it. It just caught up on me. You sick bastard.
Yeah, because I never heard of D1 athletes getting watched while they piss. Maybe, I don't know.
Watched. I mean, I can understand getting drug tested.
My gym teacher used to watch us pee all the time. Middle school. It's nothing weird about that.
No. He just happens to be in jail.
Oh my God, we need to change subjects.
So let's get back to right. So the point is, guys, like you can give them your friends pee. You can give them your friends' daughters pee. Again, like Monster said, they're not checking for like pregnancy hormones. Like that shit costs money to like test for extra things in urine. Like every test they do on this sample is going to cost someone more money. Theoretically, they want to do this for the cheapest as possible, right? So they're
100%.
usually only checking for drugs, and they do like a 5-panel screening, and it's like, you know, weed, coke, heroin, meth. I don't know what else. PCP? Who the fuck knows?
Yep, sure.
Like, right?
There it
They I don't think they check for psilocybin, and I don't think like they can check for like LSD unless they do a fucking spinal tap. Right?
I have friends in law enforcement that do psilocybin because that doesn't come up on tests.
So my point is, guys, it's very easy to do this. Don't stress. If you get a drug test at work and they give you a day, fortunately, right? Like you can do this, just find a friend. You can freeze the pee, right? Freeze it overnight, like keep it fresh. Take it out of the freezer, day of your test. Thaw it, like, you know, put it in like the container it's in, put it in like another container of warm water. Get a little like tepid, like lukewarm, right? Don't stick your finger in it, just kind of trust it. Then what I did is I got like a 3 or 4 ounce travel size shampoo bottle container.
Oh, yeah?
Okay? Those little tiny ones, you know, that's all you need.
Yeah, I'd be afraid that that would pop open because I would crush it somehow.
Bottle?
Yeah, little tiny, like, or like a sunscreen or skin lotion.
Yeah.
That little, like, the size bottle you could get on an airplane, basically.
Yeah.
Wash it out thoroughly. Fill it with the pee. And then just make sure you screw it up tight. And I wore like 2 pairs of boxers that day. And I want to, I don't want to say with the ladies around, but I kind of put it like underneath, like a mama hen, like right in that grundle area. I kept it real tight to the body. I incubated it. And then, when they put me in the room, that shit was 98.6 degrees, man. Because, they do have a thermometer strip on the side of the cup that you're going to put your pee in. That's the one test they do on the spot to, like, make sure that it's coming from, like, a live body, basically. If you can get that temperature right, you're fucking good, you know? Hand them your friend's infant's daughter's pee and walk away with your head held high. You're going to pass that test with flying colors.
It's so much easier to get it from other sources.
Like what, a Wizinator?
Sure.
I mean,
you can get things like that, like...
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable involving children and stuff like that.
Okay. For my like, listen, don't do as I said. Like, that's a bad thing. Like, I'm not
It's not like he's
advocating like getting like infant. No, that's not the point. The
it's
point
not
is
like
just
you're like
find
kidnapping
clean
the
pee.
friggin'
Find clean
kid
pee
and throwing it in a
somehow.
van and making it piss in a bottle for you.
The mom was consenting to this activity. She harvested
before you go in.
the pee for me.
No, there's just there's just some weird vibes involved in that.
There are.
Me. I know there's nothing like there's nothing nefarious or anything going on or malicious. There's no essentially no harm, no foul. It just, I don't know, it just comes across as a little icky.
A little icky. You want to talk a little icky? All right, here's where I think ahead of the game here, right? So, and unfortunately, I'm not in a job anymore where like this could potentially happen. Like, but there was a time when like I was employed with, could anytime pop up, like give me a surprise drug screen a day in advance. I gotta have clean pee in my freezer at all times.
What?
At all times. It lasts for 6 months. Don't use it if it's been in your freezer past that long. It might I don't know. It starts to like break down or something. So it's when they test for it, it might show like inconclusive, might make you do it again, that kind of stuff. So 6
So you're
months,
saying theoretically, if you know you're going to have a job that's going to drug test you, think ahead.
Think ahead.
Collect your pee ahead of time, and you can freeze it.
Think ahead.
And then
or like if
collect
you
it by
yourself
any means you feel comfortable.
Are clean ever at any point in time, like then just
save it.
Yeah, save it. But yeah, that's all we want to say about that, guys. Just don't stress about drug tests and fuck them. Like, it's bullshit. You know, there will come a time when we don't have to deal with that, and the stigma won't hang over us.
Oh my gosh, it won't be too soon.
So yeah, in the garden, I had to do some defoliation this week, and I wanted to just get into like, why do we do it? How do we do it? What do we look for? All that kind of stuff, in particular with autos.
We do it so you don't find yourself in the mess like I'm in right now, because I didn't defoliate like I should have. And now I have almost no airflow through my plants, and they're all growing into each other, and my humidity is way too high.
So there you go. That's a perfect situation in which a defoliation would help. That would lower humidity.
Would be helpful. Anybody want to come defoliate my plants for me?
I'm sure there would be lots of people here that would come.
Oh man, it can be laborious if you have a lot of plants. This can be a time-consuming process.
It hurts me on the inside.
Yeah.
However,
absolutely.
it is very beneficial for not just environmental reasons. Like, we want our humidity to drop in flower. That's a perfect way to help that along. For me, it's more about like, so I look at defoliation in two ways, right? Like there's top-down defoliation. There's like this fan leaf is blocking this bud site, and there's no way for me to like tuck it and get it out of the way, so I'm just going to pluck it, yank it off. I do that very minimally. I always find I can tuck a leaf somewhere, get it out of the way. And I'd much rather leave the leaves on the top of the plant. Right? It's solar panels, all that stuff. So when I defoliate, I do it from the bottom up, like a lollipopping. Mm-hmm. That's more what I'm talking about.
So I have a couple different strategies, really. When it comes to autos and photos, I don't really tend to differentiate how I defoliate, except for one thing. In the first maybe couple weeks of the autoflower's life, as we've talked about, I will tuck rather than take away, if I can. Some cases you can't. It's just that you have some real gnarly, big-ass leaves, and they're just in the fucking way, and you got to get them out of there. But I tend to take a lot of the bigger fan leaves off, especially early in veg, because they're covering up a branch or something else that can poke through. Those fan leaves tend to be in the worst spots, especially early on when you're trying to get your plant structure established. At least I feel like anyway. So I take a good majority of them off. I won't tend to touch the top ones either, but I don't go extreme like a lot of people tend to. Anything that's not at the upper half, three quarters of the plant is going to pretty much just come off because it's useless. Um, but I don't do like that crazy like swashing technique that I see a lot of people do. And listen, it works for a lot of people, and amen. I feel like it's a lot, and it's just unnecessary.
The schwazing is when they like lollipop it all the way up, so it literally does look like a lollipop. It's like
I see a lot of people strip the plant everything up until one node and just and rock it.
Just keep the tops.
Yeah, and they do well. Like they get nice big fat colas, no larf at all. But you're really kind of minimizing your yield on that plant by doing that. I think, and I think you open yourself up to more stress, which could also lead to intersex traits and things like that. So, yeah, don't go crazy in my opinion.
There's a fine line that you
Yeah.
don't want to cross, but like you can, in lollipopping, like doing it. So there's a difference between larf and lowers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean by that? Like I don't want larf. Course. I don't want larf. No one wants that shit. That's where there's leaves and it's just like not even solid.
It's airy
structure. Yeah, it's airy. It's like
it's a bitch to trim. It's useless.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I should say useless. Good for cooking or whatever.
Yeah. But. If you're making extracts or doing like just a wash for hash, I mean, shit, I probably wouldn't trim anything if I was just doing it for washing, right?
No, fresh frozen, you don't trim shit.
Yeah.
So, right, like you want all the potential bud sites the plants are going to put out. In my case, where like, yeah, I'm harvesting it for flower. I want to smoke this shit. I want the majority of my stuff to be tops, but like, I'll take a bunch of lowers too, man. So I get rid of everything from like, the soil up to a little less than halfway up the plant. What I usually get a plant that's like 3.5 feet tall. Okay. Sometimes they're 4 feet tall. You're taking everything off to like 1.5 feet up the plant, a little more than that. Taking off the leaves, the branches, everything. And that really does, if you do it at the right time, divert energy and growth into the remaining shoots. So you're going to tend to see like more bud sites on the ones that you leave. There's a lot of benefits to it.
Mm-hmm. So, I do like lowers. Lowers there's absolutely nothing wrong with lowers. It's, in fact, given the choice, I grab lowers before I grab the big ones because they're just immediately grinder sized.
Exactly. Like sometimes I prefer a lower. Absolutely.
It's just so much easier.
Little golf ball nugs,
Yeah, instead of breaking up those giant colas.
Yep.
Which is fine too, but nothing wrong with lowers. That's why it's important to make sure that light gets to your lower branches.
Which is a reason why I would defoliate from the top. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like if I'm trying to fill out some of those lowers. Your
leaves properly. Yeah. Just make them a priority.
Mm-hmm.
There is that additional like side lighting and stuff now too. Supplemental side lighting.
Yeah, underlighting, that stuff, And see, I don't know if that juice would be worth the squeeze,
probably
like the
not.
extra weight you'd get versus the electricity you would use, that kind of stuff. Maybe in some cases.
Worth the consideration to make it somewhat of a priority at some point in your grow. Pay attention to your lowers.
You know where I think it could work for even the home grower is if you possibly maybe use a little bit less light up top and distributed some of that down below. Like I don't necessarily know for the home grower if the juice is worth the squeeze. Let's say you're rocking a 5x5 and you got a 500 or a 600 watt panel in there, and then you throw whatever another 100 watts under there or whatever the fuck they're pushing. I don't know. I don't know enough about them to comment either way. I would lean towards probably not. I will say I know for a fact it'll benefit you. I've seen the results that it can get for people, but is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know.
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors there.
Seen.
Let's say like it is for me because my electricity rate is cheaper than you or or any like there's so many factors there to determine whether or not it's worth it for the average person.
Yep. I think you're better off just, making sure you get as little larf as possible, take everything off to halfway up the plant. Now, leaves, okay, that's a different story. Like leaves, I'll take anything blocking a bud site that I can't touch, pluck that off. Leaves, if it's growing inward, right, towards the stem, I'll take all those off. Every single leaf all the way up the plant that's growing towards the stem. I feel like it's just cluttering things up. You know what I mean?
Right. You're not going to get light down there.
Yeah, it's not doing much anyway. They're usually those little teeny leaves that just shoot off into the center of the plant. Like, just pluck those off, get them out of the fucking way. I feel like that opens, by just doing that one thing, it opens the plant up for much better airflow and light penetration.
Yeah, it's all about that penetration.
Indeed.
And rotate your plants if you can. It helps.
Oh, yeah. Great. I mean, for a lot of reasons, in the auto pots, give them like a quarter turn every day or two, half turn. So, yeah, guys, I think here's something I wanted to bring up real quick too. Porkaholic brings up an interesting comment. He says, I feel even defoliation can slow down plant growth on autos. Like if one branch is growing too fast compared to the others, defoliation can slow it down for an even kind of canopy. How do you guys agree with that?
I'm sorry.
I haven't personally noticed it, but I haven't looked for it either. That's a really interesting concept, though.
So, like, some people have said, right, like if you take off like the solar panel, if leaves are solar panels, and you remove the solar panel from a branch, will said branch have less available energy to grow? Is that solar panel providing energy to that branch, or is it the whole plant?
Is it more direct, or is it more systemic?
I think it's systemic because, like I said, I've seen people fucking strip the shit out of their plants, and then you see their harvest, and they're killing it. Like, they're still, even these people that strip off every fucking leaf but the first node, their plants still look fine at the end of flower. It's not something I would do. Like I said, I think it's extreme. But if it wasn't systemic, like meaning like the top node is enough to supply the plant with whatever solar panels it needs to absorb the light and photosynthesize. Otherwise, the plants would die, right? Because they need to be able to absorb the light to live. So, I like we said, like, you don't really kind of want to fuck with the top node too much. I think if you leave that alone, and it's more than enough to keep the plant alive and be healthy.
I agree, man. I tend to not think that, like, I don't think that if you pluck a branch or a leaf off of a branch, it's going to slow down that branch. And I don't think that maybe there is a minimal amount of like slowed growth that you might say happens in an autoflower when you defoliate. But I think the benefits outweigh that like little teeny bit of slowed growth for like a day.
Yeah, well, some energy has to be diverted for it to heal its wounds, right?
Yeah.
You're basically like covering with thousands of tiny wounds. So it has to divert some energy, heal for a day or two, and
Yeah.
then all the energy can go back to being big and beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, super cropping and bending branches will have more of an effect on slowing down growth than I think the defoliating. I've had to use
Yeah,
it
Agreed.
myself.
well, yeah, with super cropping, I mean, you're like pinching off a lot of their highway. They got to figure out how to reform their flow through that now very much smaller area. That's like catastrophically dramatic into that. Taking off leaves is like, ouch,
Yeah.
in comparison.
I don't feel
Tis
it's as
tis but a
dramatic
scratch.
as people think it is. Because
You don't
like,
think so? Because
no, because I've had to do
it
it so many
stays
times.
pinched.
You no, you just bend that branch and you notice that, like, all right, it's like at 90 degrees, and then you come back even a couple hours later or the next day, and the top of that is just bent right back up. Like, you still have that bend from where you bent the plant, but like it
Mm-hmm.
goes right back up to the light, and it's healed within a day or so, 2 days tops. And
I was just
it's
thinking,
just
like, it's like taking a 10-lane highway and reducing it to 4 lanes.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, but like I've never noticed, for instance, like tops I've had to do that on, they just look funky, but they still produce big fat chunky buds. Like they weren't phased at all. It's just the structure of
They
the.
Interesting.
they do, then they will still grow like right. So I think there was an episode where we talked about that as like a strategy to slow down like stretching branches is like
Mhm.
super cropping. You pinch them, you twist
Mm-hmm.
them,
Well,
you break them, and you make
you're
them
not ne-
heal.
you're not necessarily slowing down the growth, in my opinion, with that method. You're evening out your canopy by lowering the branch. So inherently, you are by effect getting a smaller plant or inhibiting growth because you've spread it out. Like you've the to me the the benefit of it is not slowing down the plant. It's just kind of evening it out with the rest of it. Like if you have one gnarly branch that's just too tall. For instance, in my opinion, I think one of the best things you can do for your plant is taking that main top and bending it over. I don't really top my plants too much anymore. I don't even bother. I take that main top and I bend it over to match the middle branches, and you see explosive growth from a plant after that, and plenty of side branching and more tops that way.
Just divert the what is it, the apical
Yeah.
dominance of
Yep.
that one stem, and
Hmm.
it's a great strategy. Now
They they all
I'm
want to. I know you don't. You like that natural kind of like
well.
Christmas tree look.
I
You
also
know.
think that like in an autoflower, man, like there are some people who can get away with this, and some genetics that like will allow for more of this bending and that kind of stuff as than others. But like I just don't. I think like LST is just too widely advocated for beginners in all situations. Like I don't recommend LST for most autoflower growers. I just don't.
I
For
know we differ in
photos,
opinion on this one because I've never seen any ill effect from doing that to a plant. It's not like you're mutilating it; you're just bending the top over ever so slightly. And I wouldn't recommend doing it, your first couple of weeks with any plant. Really, you're not going to really benefit too much with that. Although I seen something interesting on Instagram the other day, and I was scrolling through, and I was trying to look for it because I actually wanted to bring this up on the show. I watched somebody they the seedling they fucking bent the thing over with like a garden tie. You know what I mean? And
mm-hmm.
Like the
from
silver horseshoe ones.
yep, and from day one that plant, like it was a time lapse, and he showed the plant, or he or she showed the plant throughout its stage, and it was pretty impressive. Um, but you got to think too, right? Like it sounds to me at first it sounded crazy, but then like that little horseshoe thing holding the seedling down, that can't be stressing it out too much at all. The thing really can't even know any better at that point, you know.
I don't know. Did
Um,
you ask the seedling?
No, I didn't ask the ceiling, and I don't know if it gave consent or not.
Well, I don't know, consent or not. It's just like, dude, the thing with LST is like we're anthropomorphizing our plants a little bit and like assigning human qualities one way or another. But how are we to know what the plant deems is low stress? Like, did we ask it? Like, did we? I don't know. Like, how low stress is it? Really, truly?
It's
Like,
lower than high stress.
well, where's that line? And like, what's like? How do we know that the plant considers taking leaves or branches off lower stress than bending a top? Like, I don't know because I can't ask the plant. Like in both cases, they are stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at all stress as like I try to mitigate that as an autoflower grower. I want my plants like just to be stress free, you know?
Right.
When I do stress them, like I have a damn good reason for it. Like in the lollipopping case, like keep humidity down, divert energy to those top branches, reduce larf. And I think like that 1 or 2 days of slowed growth doesn't matter. In the end, it's going to benefit the plant. And that's like in the middle of the stretch anyway. Timing is key with defoliating. Would you
Yeah,
not agree?
I would definitely agree with that statement.
When do you defoliate?
I really don't fuck around too much, for the first couple of weeks. Like especially with autos, I kind of want to leave them alone a little bit. I'll tuck a little bit and maybe pluck a leaf here and there if it's in the way of something. Some of these like really indica dominant ones have some pretty big fan leaves that get in the way of
Yeah,
things.
those
Um,
fat fingers.
but yeah, and then you have different stages of growth, right? Like the stretch phase, and you got to time things out right more so with autos as far as defoliating goes, right? I've always tried to take a minimal approach when defoliating. Like you want to have a purpose. You don't just start taking shit off and cutting shit off. Why did you take that off? Why did you cut that branch off? Well, because it wasn't up far enough to plant. If you ask somebody that question, they don't know. Uh, I think the right phrase for it would be selective defoliation. You don't want to go crazy.
Dude,
Yeah,
I agree.
certainly.
I agree. And like, you definitely have to have a purpose for what you're doing, um, and like, timing is a key component of it. I For autos, guys, I'm talking autos pretty much exclusively here. Um, I like to do my lollipopping, bottom up defoliating from like in the middle of the stretch, day 35. It's like perfect time to do it. The plants are in prime, like explosive growth phase. Like if they do slow down, it's hardly noticeable at all. They're still growing like an inch or two a day at that point, and they don't miss it at all. Like I always notice my autos are very happy the day after a nice defoliation. It's like that scene in Fight Club, right, where he like pulls his gun out. He's like, "You're gonna die tonight," and then he lets him go, and he's like, "Tomorrow's gonna be the best day of that man's life," right? They
Right, they
experience
survived your abuse,
a little bit
so
of stress.
they're
They think
happier.
they get stressed out. They think they're gonna die, and then like the next morning they're like, "Oh my god, life is so good. Thank you." I don't know. It's definitely effective technique, guys. I highly recommend lollipopping your autoflowers. I even recommend just taking the first node off
Yeah,
all
I
your
do that.
plants, like on day 15, like okay, like way early, like the first little baby node that comes out, that one like that never ever quite makes it up to the top anyway. Just fucking get rid of it.
I take
Don't
the first
even
two, actually.
do you first
Yeah.
two.
Yep. They never turn into much of anything.
You're not wrong. Like it's like don't even give the plant the opportunity to put energy into those branches that will never reach the top, no matter how hard they try.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say.
You're just gonna have to cut them off later. Come off from the beginning.
They were doomed from the start, you know. It's just like, so get rid of them. Yeah, at least the bottom node.
At least the bottom one.
I
Really,
agree.
the bottom one is kind of useless. And you can kind of tell based on what you're growing. You should have an idea of what you're growing in most cases. If you know you're going to have a big old plant, losing those bottom two might not be such a big deal. If you're going to have like a tiny little thing, maybe losing that second branch up might not be a great idea, because you'll be able to train it or move it in such a way that all of it will be able to get enough light to establish into well-formed buds.
Yeah.
And this is less of a problem outdoors, because you get much better light outdoors if you're doing it right.
Like
but still,
the sun is like, it's not like just coming from one point, you know. It's
Yeah.
like it's more
It
of like a
moves.
diffuse light.
Mhm.
You get a lot more underlighting outdoors, just naturally, just
Yep.
the way the sun works. Nature be like that. It's pretty cool.
It is.
So lighting is a topic I wanted to kind of not dive into, but like carefully wade into. Like just like check the temperature of the water here, guys, because I do get a lot of questions about lighting. It seems like a topic people want to know about. I mentioned it before the show. Like, I want to talk to a lighting expert. I think we're going to try to get that arranged for you guys. I could tell you what I know about lighting, but would you really believe me? You know what I mean? Like,
What
I'm
city
not
is your light set
I'm not
to
a
right now?
scientist. So, like, right now, like, it depends on the kind of fixture. I mean, I'm in the stretch phase of my plants, so I'm shooting them with 600 ppfd right now. Doesn't matter like how far away the light is, how much it's turned up on the dimmer. 600 ppfd. By the time they're done stretch and flowering and bulking up, you can crank that up to 800, 1000 without CO2. That's your limit. Plant's not really going to utilize it beyond that point. Unless you're supplementing CO2, then you can crank it a little more. Lighting is just it's a complicated topic. There's a lot to it. But one thing I do kind of want to just mention, like, I find blue light during veg super beneficial, right?
100%.
Keeps the nodes tight, keeps like your plant's like nice and stout, nicely stacked, A lot of fixtures have like a added blue spectrum to it. Really, really beneficial during veg. Okay? So like ideally, guys, and here's kind of what I guess ultimately, ideally, you would want to have two fixtures of lights, one for veg and one for flower.
Oh yeah, in a perfect world, we were all
in
rich.
A perfect world, yeah. Like if you notice, like certain lighting companies even offer that. They're like, here's your veg specific light with added blues, right?
Yeah.
And here's your flower light with added reds. We can't all do that. We can't all do that.
No, and it's funny you mentioned that though, because like a lot of these lights now, like they default to having more red.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as somebody who owns a shitload of 600 R specs from HLG, you do get more lanky plants. You have to
absolutely.
You have to kind of know what you're doing more to avoid that and train more. Like I wouldn't be able to get away without a trellis net, especially using those lights.
So like, because most growers, home growers, and even commercial growers are not going to buy one light for veg and one light for flower, lighting companies do tend to default to just like adding a lot of reds, because they'll grow a plant from seed to harvest better than a added blue spectrum would. Simple as that. Like, you get more photosynthetic activity from the reds than you do the blues, and you can use the reds in veg. It's just going to make them stretch a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's strain dependent, absolutely.
And if you're growing sativas, like, that might not be a great thing.
Mm.
But if you're growing like a real stout, fat indica that's like going to be squat as fuck anyway, like, yeah, reds are going to help you out a lot. You know, like, but so you just kind of have to know the basics. Like, blues keep them squat, reds make them stretch. It's kind of a cool thing in plants called the shade response. You ever hear of that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a plant under the canopy in a jungle, you know, underneath a bunch of taller plants that are filtering out the sunlight. They're taking out the greens, the blues, kind of like the light that does reach the plants below the canopy tends to be a redder spectrum. And when a plant can like senses that there's an abundance of red in the light it's getting, it triggers it to try and grow above the plants that it knows are above it. You know what I mean?
Isn't that amazing?
Outcompete. Yeah, dude, super interesting. It's like, knowing that is like, yeah, you can plan how you grow certain strains, when you're gonna like do your defoliation and your lollipopping based on like how much the plant is or isn't stretching. I mean, a lot of this is spectrum dependent.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they make their food. So it's really important. It's everything to them.
That's where a light like what you have there with the tunable spectrum, I think, could come in handy. Don't get offended, but I don't believe like the sunrise, sunset, all that jazz has any benefit at all. If anything, it's detrimental in my opinion. But the tunable spectrum thing is fucking badass, because you can,
for that reason,
you can tune it to veg cycle and a flower cycle, and that's fucking amazing. And I think that's the future of lighting. Like, we've been waiting for LEDs to advance, and I think you're starting to see it more and more, even in these, I've seen lower end lights with tunable spectrums. So I think that's pretty fucking cool. It's gonna, that's the new wave that everybody should want to jump on. Like, in my opinion, if you're gonna spend money on a high quality fixture, you want to look for one with a tunable spectrum.
I agree, and that is why I have the light that I do. And I thought it was a super cool, like, unique feature. That, like, yeah, dude, and for listeners, the light I have is an optic LED Slim 720S, I think it's called. It is, yeah, and it's got 3 tunable spectrums. There's your white, your reds, and your blues, and I can literally take the reds and dial them all the way out, take them out, and it's just white and blue for veg. Then I can, like, flower starts, I turn the red up. I have it all connected to the digital lighting controller. It does it all for me. I do program in like sunrises, sunsets, that kind of stuff, like how you would imagine it to be. The first 10 minutes of the day is more red, more blue. The last hour of the day has a more of a red spectrum as that kind of golden hour of the day comes. And I think, just if nothing else, guys, like, you think about like how the seasons operate too. As like the season gets later and if a plant were outdoors and it's triggered by a naturally occurring less than 12 hours of sunlight and it's doing its thing, like, yeah, you notice the sky gets like more red in October.
Mm-hmm.
Spectrum just changes over time. Those reds help, man.
Not to completely go off the rails here, but as far as lighting goes, I think something else that I've started to see a lot of pop up is people running 13-hour lighting cycles, and the benefit that you can get with that extra hour of light. Because we use for instance, like with veg, we use the 18-6 or 24 and 12-12 for flower. But those are just like kind of generic requirements. You can get away with more light in flower, and you can also get away with less light in veg. Like I've seen people veg with 16 hours of light, and I believe you could probably go as high as 14 hours in flower. I would imagine.
I think 14 is the magic number.
Yeah,
like you want to be below 14.
I think that is interesting to me, more so than under canopy lighting, as far as whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze. Just in my opinion, thinking about it logically, I could be wrong. I think that you would get more benefit out of that than you would under canopy lighting.
Now, I think you're right, and I've heard, and the people that I have heard using those like 13, 11 light cycles, they use a more red spectrum in the last like hour of that lighting cycle because it puts the plants to sleep like much quicker.
Yep.
Like if you give them an abundance of red at the end of the day, like in a naturally occurring sunset, they just go right to sleep. It's like singing them a lullaby.
Oh my gosh. Really
beautiful
like that.
thing. So like I could show you studies on this. You know, this is like a real phenomenon. So like I don't know, Monster, like how could there not be some, you know, maybe like the cloud cover breaks and like the overcast days that I do. That's taking a little too far, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just like that one day every 2 weeks where I'll like dial the lights back to like 30%. It's like,
well, like,
overcast.
I think that's just it. You're inhibiting the plant, in my opinion. I mean,
probably
the lighting guru of the world is Bugby, and I have a hard time listening to him a little bit sometimes because he's just kind of monotone, and he goes on and on and on, and I feel like sometimes
he knows his stuff though, man.
Overstimulates,
like,
but
he knows his lighting, and if like I don't know, is there a better authority on the subject?
Probably not. No.
That's the point. Like,
but
I know
Jeffrey here had mentioned that Bugby says the plants don't care about sunrise or sunset; they just want the light.
Really, because I swear I've heard him talk about this effect, where plants go to sleep quicker when you give them at the end of the day.
I think we're misunderstanding each other. The sunrise sunset thing, and cloudy days and stuff, I don't think
gotcha.
matters.
Like, yeah,
matters
you know,
much.
I think, yeah, like it's just, I think a DLI fluctuation every once in a while just keeps them on their toes.
What interests me about that light in particular is, can't you like put it to like different spectrums of like the world or whatever?
No, that's so I've heard there's a that's Grandmaster LED.
Is GML?
Yeah, that's Grandmaster out of Canada.
I think that's kind of interesting, although probably a gimmick to me. But it sounds pretty cool if it's executed correctly. Like, is it really close to that part of the country, or is it just like
the spectrum is going to be different, like on a mountaintop than in a valley?
I 100%
he's
get
saying
that.
But who can confirm? He's saying he's expecting white label spectrums.
Are these spectrums that they say are in fucking Malaysia or wherever? is it really a spectrum close to Malaysia, or who are we kidding here?
It's a gross approximation, and
now,
I don't know.
GML
maybe
takes
there
this
are.
shit seriously. He really does. He takes his shit seriously. So
maybe he gets measurements, dude. Yeah.
I would tend to think that it's probably legit, but who the fuck knows?
You got to get measurements, dog. Like it reminds me of like if you guys are like audio guys, like if you have like a reverb on your computer, sometimes you can get like a reverb that can mimic like a chapel, like a cathedral, and they'll get like real samples of like
but that's a lot easier
audio
than
response from a cathedral or a cave or somewhere. I don't know. It'd just be all it would take is going out and measuring the spectrum in the place you want to mimic.
True.
Program it
but
for that.
I feel like they probably just gathered data from the internet. There's no way they traveled around the globe with a fucking par meter or wherever.
Went on
a
4chan.
spectrum analyzer. Yeah. Just no fucking way. Sorry. And if they said he did, I call bullshit on it. Sorry. But
that is no. I agree, man. That I think that's like that's like the next frontier of lighting. I think is messing with the spectrum. I got in on it early. And I think I'm seeing the benefits just in adding blues and veg and reds and flower.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's
Simple
going to
as that.
allow you to have one fixture instead of two for optimized growth. It's fucking cool.
It is pretty neat.
Now, I'd be interested to know if you connect that kilowatt meter to your light when it's doing like more blue or more red, if it's how much power it's using. That interests me.
So, from what I understand, each of the blue and red channel is 100 watts. The whole fixture is 720 watts. So it's 100 of blue, 100 of red, 520 full spectrum.
Okay, so full spectrum white.
Yeah. So it's like I can't like dial in exact spectrums. Like right now, I know I'm giving my plant a, 4270 Kelvin spectrum.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know, more blues, more reds. It's all just an estimation.
The tunability is all in the blue, the amount of blue and the amount of red, right? Like the white chip doesn't actually change color or
doesn't change. No, that does not.
It just changes its brightness.
Spectrum. It just changes. Yeah, intensity. I can dial it back, and then have like, and in doing so, and then like adding more blues than whites. Like you are essentially changing the spectrum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the ratio of light then. And it's like, man, I don't know how to measure that. So it's like, I just keep the whites all the way up 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You're better off.
Yeah.
That way. Yeah.
And then it's blues during veg. And then I don't dial the blues back then during flower. I keep them and just add the reds.
Yep. I think that's your best approach. If I had that light, that's how I would do it.
Well, it is a cool light, I will say. I love the thing. It runs cooler than any LED I've ever had too, man. The thing makes no heat at all. It's badass. But yeah, we will work on getting like a lighting scientist on here. That would be fun, man. Maybe one that's interesting to listen to if they exist. Does that person exist? The Canna community would have found him out if he exists. I don't know. Difficult proposition, man. Usually guys that are into like photons and science, they're not the best people persons. You know what I mean?
Listen, I will just say it right now because I've already seen a couple suggestions. I love Shane from iGrow, and he's a wealth of knowledge. He's a little bit tough to listen to sometimes. But I think we will take it into consideration.
I think just for the knowledge, we might be able to overlook, the presentation.
Yeah, because it's like we
he's
said.
He's really gonna come on now, guys.
Hey, well,
I don't think he's ever gonna get this deep in an episode. This is never gonna happen.
Not only that, but like, I think it just kind of goes with the territory. Somebody had mentioned that. Like, I think any light expert is gonna be a little, hey
it's
there,
hard
guys.
To make, it's hard to make lighting super exciting. It's interesting information, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, it's just information about something that's.
No, you're right.
It's not it's not all that.
Let's have an
truly.
open mind for the audience's sake. I say,
Yeah.
like let's just like lighting's a topic
about.
we want to like. I think it's what a huge like. You got to know about light if you want to grow. Like you have to know some basic scientific principles like PPFD, DLI, all these things. I've listened to Bruce Bugby lectures on YouTube. Like I've watched them repeatedly. I'm a crazy
interesting.
person.
It's super interesting.
yeah,
it's just not thrilling.
It's interesting.
And that's
I learn
okay.
stuff, and I just think it's interesting. Yeah, like
Yeah.
boring is good if it's a topic you're into.
Right. It's important information to know. It's just
Okay. I'm convinced. But yeah, we'll work on that. I do want to mention, guys, we have a giveaway going on. Have you entered? Have your friends entered? It's going to happen in like 2 days, right?
tomorrow night, I think.
Okay.
At midnight, it closes officially.
All right.
And then I get the fun of tallying all the votes. So get your votes in.
Get your votes in. We have
Yeah.
it's a little confusing. There's 3 ways of entering. There's 4 total prizes. 2 going to Instagram, 1 going to our Discord community. So if you want to enter for that one, get in our Discord. There's 1 going to our Patreons who are automatically entered for this. So if you want to be included in that, smaller sample or smaller like prize pool, higher odds to win, less Patreons than there are Discord members and Instagram followers, so forth. We have a Patreon. Help us out. And thank you to all the people who have signed up. Good luck may the odds be ever in your favor. Right?
Yep.
So yeah, then
Discord?
there's
Yep.
1 going to Discord. Yeah, come over, hang out with us. And then the 2 are just going to Instagram. We're just picking, share the story, tell your friends.
Yep. Tag some people. It's like super old school.
It is. Yo, what's up, Johnny?
Johnny
I see
Rotten.
you. Haven't seen you in a bit, man.
Johnny Apple.
Good to hear from you, man. And yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in live. If you are live show watchers, we appreciate y'all. It's fun interacting with you, answering some questions. And
We wish we could get to them all, but it's physically impossible.
yeah, it is. Sometimes we get in the flow of things. It's just impossible, disrupting the conversation, all that stuff. But yeah, come hang out with us live, and the shows. Then you won't have to wait 2 weeks to listen to the episode either. You can listen live or listen to them pretty much immediately on YouTube. So, But yeah, anything else, guys?
No. Thanks for everybody for watching live. We love y'all.
Yep.
We love y'all, live or undead listeners alike too. We love all of them. We appreciate you.
5 dual streaming. Look at
What
he commented on Twitch and YouTube. He's dual streaming.
Yes, we are, man. We're breaking those Twitch.
No,
bylaws.
he's dual streaming. He's watching it on 2 different
Oh,
devices.
no shit. That's cool.
I was committed.
He's a good dude. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys. Yeah. We'll see y'all next week. And until then, you know the rules. Don't get caught.